Let's do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the In Michigan podcast. I am your host, Ryan Radude, aka That Michigan Guy on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm very excited because the podcast is getting a few followers. We're up to, I think, around 20. We're just kicking things off. Again, this podcast is about all things Michigan all the time, Metro Detroit. Anything for people in the state, people who just love the state. I know a lot of my following are people who maybe moved away or used to live here, want to live here, which brings us to our topic of today. But just know that we're going to be always talking about all things Michigan, and so you'll get your Michigan fix, if you will. And if you haven't followed, make sure to follow, leave a review if you enjoyed the podcast and have loved listening to the episodes so far on Apple or Spotify. 5 stars if you really like it. But just wanted to say hi to everyone. Specifically, want to give a little shout out to Jose. He's starting his own podcast. He left me a voice message. Just want to let you know that I heard it. He's from Mexico, living in Michigan now. And it's actually kind of funny because in addition to him, someone else I know from Mexico also lives in Michigan and very much enjoys it. So again, this topic of moving here is something I'm going to be diving into. I myself grew up in Michigan, but I did leave, do not cancel me, for 2 years or so before I started even getting into my Michigan content journey. I went and lived in Chicago for 2 years, had a blast. It was super fun. I'm going to get deep into it and everything that came with that and why I moved back and everything that comes with that. But just want to talk in quick about how Michigan's doing right now. We're in August still. People are getting in those last minute summer bucket list items, trips off of their sleeve. I myself am been really go, but I'm trying to slow down a little bit too, to just kind of smell the roses, relax a little, maybe have a little staycation of sort. The one segment too I really want to get into before we go any deeper is the Michiganders Say What segment, and that is taking a comment from somebody on TikTok or Instagram. Honestly, I love the comment section. It becomes its own community in itself on the social media platforms, but today's comes from Frosted Flakes. I believe this one's on Instagram, and they said, this is in relation to, I did a few videos about Michigan beaches, kind of like the best ones to check out if you want to go to Instagram and check out that video. Also just gave my own custom audio for people to use on Instagram and TikTok to make your own content if you want to maybe make some inspiring Michigan beach content, especially while you're out in summer. Again, it's August, the weather's nice, we're trying to enjoy that last month. But Frosted Flakes said, I went to a beach on Lake Michigan last winter. And you could kind of, obviously this is summertime and we all expect it, but the beaches in Michigan, honestly, I remember seeing a lot of photos this past winter, are very beautiful. But they went last winter and it was absolutely gorgeous. People are really missing out if they've never gone to the shore in the winter. Key point there. Grand Haven and Rosie Mound are amazing. So there's a couple of recommendations for you. I imagine, I went to Holland, the beach in Holland, and that's actually one of the beaches I gave a shout out to in that video. And it was colder. It was definitely like winter time. And let me tell you, the photography I got there was like the purest Michigan photography you could ever imagine. And the conditions were just perfect for those clear, crisp. I got these like images with seagulls, like a flock of seagulls. It was just beyond beautiful. So if you're curious to spice things up this winter and want to continue traveling, I would recommend, and so does Frosted Flakes, that you check out some of the beaches here in Michigan. And that's what Michiganders are saying right now. Now, to get into our main section, my life. Life. I plan to have it be a story sharing opportunity. I'm going to start bringing people in possibly once I figure out this dual audio situation. So right now, though, I want to share my own personal experience, which was a very important one in my life. And so I went to Michigan State, go green for anyone else who went, and had a nice time there, enjoyed my time, got my media management degree. And I told myself, I didn't really have, growing up, I kind of stayed in the east side of Michigan. I really didn't venture out crazy amount. I didn't have a perspective of the world that was very worldly. And after college, I went to East Lansing, never really got a lot of time in Detroit to really understand it, know what was up, know how to kind of establish a life there. So I said, well, I don't really know where I want to go, so let me go to Chicago. So after college, I was applying for jobs, got one, and if you ever want an extended story of how I did that, I can also share that. But ended up getting a job, lived there for about 2 years or so, worked in the big advertising world, and switched positions even a couple times, moved places a couple times, and like I said, it was super fun. But I had this panic attack on the train one day, and that really got me thinking about my life. It was very scary, but it got me thinking like, okay, my support system. A lot of my friends there who I did, make that were family to me were amazing. And throughout the whole process, they were great, but they weren't my actual family. And I think in that moment, I just really needed my actual family. What was funny too about living in Chicago was that I kept hearing, in Detroit, you kind of hear friends going to Chicago and you're like, ooh, I'm a little jealous. Like, I want to be going to the big city myself. But then what's funny in Chicago, I see all these ads for Michigan. Like in Chicago, there's ads for Traverse City. There's ads for Saugatuck, all the Petoskey. Like you'd be on the train and I see all these Michigan ads. Like Michigan West Coast really fights for Chicagoans' tourism, which I thought was really funny too, because you don't really realize that other people from other states can gain access because we're surrounded by the lakes. So you don't think about how these people are, like going to be coming and all this other stuff. But I was really getting that Michigan momentum built up already, even before that panic attack happened or anything. And I also kept hearing about Detroit's kind of renaissance where, they said, we kind of sucked the poison out a little bit in terms of people running things, and we're really, really trying to make Detroit big. I think like the first ad campaign that I heard about for Detroit, kind of trying to bounce back, is they were advertising to artists in like New York that we had a really cheap studio space. So you could come have your art studio for super cheap compared to like a New York studio, which is probably like thousands of dollars a month. And you could come, and they were really about bringing like culture, artists, things like that to the city, which I thought was really cool. Again, hearing all this in Chicago, even though I'm like, oh my gosh, like people are like, oh, isn't that so interesting about Detroit? I'm like, I used to live there. I would I almost became interesting because I lived there previously. And I was like, yeah, Detroit's getting pretty cool, I guess, what have you. And there's a lot of changes. And at that time too, I wanted to start my own business. So I thought to myself, ooh, I want to get my foot in the door maybe. But yeah, I started missing family a lot. Kind of missed the Midwest, even though Chicago's still Midwest, kind of missed Detroit, just people, and I always say this, people in Michigan in general, and I can tell by the people who've come to say hi to me, who I meet around the state, who say, how much they love my content, and we just have a nice conversation, and we're just strangers. So the people in Michigan are just very unique, a lot of nice people. Detroit, same thing, cool people, very down to earth. That's what everybody says about us. I just, went to go meet people in Chicago. I just went to go met people in Philadelphia, and everyone says the same thing about people from our area, and that they're like, oh, I know a few people in Detroit, coolest people, like so down to earth, so nice, but also have a little bit of an edge. And I'm like, yep, that's very Metro Detroit. And so I started actually applying for jobs in Detroit, and I ended up landing a big agency job. Not a big agency job, but just like it was at a big agency. It was a, promoted position. So I felt very cool. And it was just awesome. I got to move back. And when I moved back, my old high school friends like surprised me on the night I moved back, which was obviously like the warmest welcome ever and made me cry. But the whole process of actually moving to Michigan involved, applying for jobs. I know a lot of people here, a lot of my friends moved from somewhere else to Michigan, and a lot of them are like engineers. A lot of people move for work, or they move for a lover that they maybe don't have anymore, and they just decided to stay because they liked it so much. Things like that are kind of some examples I've seen. But I really do think a lot of people need to consider moving to Michigan. I mean, everyone comes from a different background of why they choose to live where they want. And I can honestly tell you that even if in Chicago, even, I was able to get my own family too, but Detroit's definitely the same, and one of those places where you can meet people that might become your new chosen family. Heck, maybe your family will even move here. Maybe like your sibling will move here or something like that. I've heard of that happening a lot where people are like, oh, I moved here and then, I liked it a lot. So this other, person that I know in my family moved here as well, or things like that. So I think that Michigan just has that specialness to it, that anyone can kind of come and feel welcomed, and there's a lot of opportunity here. You don't feel like you're you can feel like a little bit of a bigger fish in a small pond, which is kind of nice as well. But yeah, so when I moved back, I got exactly what I was hoping for. And again, that might not be the experience that everybody has, but for me, I got the community. I joined a big LGBTQ plus choir, Prism, as a shout out. Go check out our choir and see our upcoming performances if you want to see us sometime soon. And I got to be a part of Detroit's Renaissance and being a business owner now for 5 years, in that I, am one of those small businesses in Detroit that are helping other Detroit businesses kind of help thrive. And I'm even able to do that much more with my content now, where I'm working with a lot of big brands around the city, even giving shout outs to smaller businesses. And I want to continue doing that in a way that I can kind of just highlight the really beautiful pieces of Michigan, which kind of leads me into the other piece of moving back, which was that it was clearly meant to be, which is kind of wild too, because this, I believe everybody has like certain paths that you might end up being on yourself, but I know that one big path that has given me my dreams and then some is being able to make content for people like you listening, content on Instagram and TikTok, and be able to develop these communities that really showcases Michigan in the light that I think it deserves to be seen in, which is a very good light, a lot of opportunity light, a Renaissance light. I've heard our governor started calling Detroit Renaissance City and not just Motor City, not trying to remove it because Motor City is built on this huge foundation that Detroit had. But we really are becoming, I think, the Renaissance City now. And even cities like Grand Rapids are seeing huge development, and everyone's talking about them. And Michigan as a state is just becoming a place that I feel is more inclusive, it's more welcoming, it has more opportunity, and me being able to, be in this position that I am, where I'm becoming this well-known Michigander person that, every time I go in public, people say hi and they're like, oh my gosh, I love your content, things like that. It's just really cool. And honestly, I wanted to go into film before I ended up going into more like the management part of advertising. So it's a very full circle moment for me to be able to make video content all the time and kind of be this like mini film creator, if you will. So yeah, I mean, you can tell that moving to Michigan had some magical effects for me, I would say. And I think that if you're considering moving, know that there's a lot of resources out there, like website content and my own content on Instagram and TikTok, if you want to check it out and give me a follow if you like it. I've actually seen a lot of comments of people being like, oh my gosh, I want to move back so bad. It's all these people that, left before opportunity like myself and maybe found, greatness in another place, but still miss it a lot. So know that I'm here to continue delivering that to you. And honestly, I hope that, yeah, that's it. That's it. It's really hard to end these things, but that's why I'm just going to go into my classic ending phrase. But I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you all, Michigan.